Greetings from abroad. I've returned, and I wanted to confide in you all and seek your advice. My husband, 36 years old, and I, 34 years old, have been married for 3 years. For the most part, our relationship has been strong, though we've faced our fair share of challenges which we've always managed to overcome together. Recently, my husband's work has demanded more and more of his time, leaving him with less availability at home. In his absence, he's leaned on his college best friend, let's call him Mark, who is 35 years old. Mark has been an integral part of my husband's life for years. They were like brothers, and Mark even served as the best man at our wedding, a role I fully supported and understood. I appreciated Mark's willingness to help out around the house, from fixing things to taking care of maintenance tasks and assisting with things that often required a man's touch. Mark was genuinely a good guy. One evening, my husband once again found himself at the office late, and I encountered a problem. The back door got jammed. Given that I would be alone in the house at night, I called my husband to inform him of the situation. He mentioned that he would ask Mark if he could come over to fix it. This request didn't surprise me, so I agreed. I began heading upstairs to take a shower, but I heard Mark approaching. Instead of continuing upstairs, I decided to wait for him at our front door. Mark arrived, toolbox in hand, and looked exceptionally rugged that day, exuding a solid and appealing presence. I greeted him as he approached. While I felt a bit embarrassed about needing his help again, he seemed cheerful and in a good mood. I told him that fixing the back door wasn't an urgent matter and that if he had plans or was busy, we could address it another time. He quickly responded, "No, I'm not doing anything, so there's no problem." I nodded in agreement, and together we walked to our back door. As he examined the door, I decided to head upstairs to shower and prepare for bed. Midway through my shower, I realized that I might have left the stove on after preparing dinner. I had to go back downstairs to double-check. As I descended the stairs, I was surprised to hear footsteps going up. To my astonishment, it was Mark. He informed me that I had indeed left the stove on, but reassured me that he had already turned it off. Our eyes met, and our lips interlocked, and I leaned in, unable to resist the temptation. He responded passionately, and the intensity of our kiss escalated rapidly. In the blink of an eye, one thing led to another, and we found ourselves entangled in a moment of passion. Afterward, he returned to fixing the back door, and I resumed my shower. At that moment, all I felt was an overwhelming sense of regret. In the days that followed, everything appeared normal between my husband and me. I hadn't seen Mark since that fateful night. However, one Saturday, my husband and I had plans to attend a gathering with his college friends. Everyone seemed to be enjoying themselves, and I caught up with some of the girls. Suddenly, my husband approached me, insisting that we were leaving right away. I was taken aback and initially thought he was joking, but the seriousness in his expression was undeniable. On the way home, I repeatedly asked him what was wrong, but he remained silent, refusing to respond to my inquiries. As we entered our house, he went straight to our bedroom, opened the cabinets, and began removing all my clothes. Then, he looked at me and revealed that he knew everything. Mark had divulged every detail of what transpired that night. My husband declared that cheating was bad enough, but to do so with his best friend was unforgivable. He didn't want to see me anymore and insisted that I leave right then and there. Confused and overwhelmed, I packed my bag because it seemed like I had no other choice. I'm at a loss about what to do now. I would do anything to salvage my marriage, but I'm completely lost. Can anyone provide me with advice on how to proceed? It's been almost a month, and my life has been nothing but misery. I've tried everything, even begged my husband for another chance, but he has completely shut me out. He refuses to talk to me, and it seems he's determined to go through with the divorce. I wholeheartedly acknowledge my mistake, one that I deeply regret and vow never to repeat. However, the idea of ending our long history together over this single lapse feels excessively harsh. I was a devoted wife to him, yet it seemed as though this one mistake transformed me into the worst person he ever known. What's even more perplexing is that my ex-husband and Mark, his best friend, continued their friendship without any disruption. It's bewildering to me that Mark and I, both consenting adults, made a mistake together, yet I'm the one bearing the brunt of the consequences while their friendship remains intact. Everything about this situation seems absurd, and I'm unsure if I'll ever be able to move past it. I understand that I brought this upon myself, but I'm struggling to come to terms with who I am and what I currently face. I'm embarking on a new chapter of my life in a different state, far away from those who turned their backs on me. I'll never forget how they treated me, but I intend to use their actions as motivation to better myself and strive for personal improvement. Comment, your actions were undoubtedly hurtful, and it's understandable that your husband chose to end the marriage. As for your friends, they're not obligated to support you when you've clearly made a significant mistake, especially one involving an affair with your husband's best friend. Your husband has every right to maintain his friendship with Mark if he wishes to do so, although it might seem like a perplexing choice. Now it's time to face the consequences of your actions, learn from this colossal mistake, and focus on personal growth. Allow your husband to move forward with his life, and you should do the same. Perhaps over time you'll evolve into a better person capable of building healthier relationships in the future. Story 2. I understand that my situation may not be the best, but here it goes. I'm a married woman who has found herself in an affair with a married man. I remained faithful for 15 years, but my husband lost all interest in sex. Despite my efforts and attempts to get him to seek medical help, he refused. While he's physically capable, he lacks interest in intimacy, and this constant rejection took a toll on my self-esteem and left me feeling unattractive and depressed. The thought of leaving crossed my mind, but I didn't want to disrupt my children's lives. One evening, the children were staying at my mom's place, and I decided to surprise my husband with some new lingerie. I carefully put it on and then sat down on the couch next to him. To my disappointment, he ignored me and asked me to move because he was engrossed in watching TV, stating that I was in his way. He didn't even notice the expensive Victoria's Secret corset and panties I had purchased and saved for a kid-free night. That was the breaking point for me. Feeling utterly rejected, I locked myself in the bathroom and cried for an entire hour after he went to bed, completely oblivious to my emotional turmoil. I decided to go online and created a profile on Ashley Madison, using a bikini picture from our vacation with my face blurred out. The response was overwhelming, and it was an enormous ego boost not to feel invisible anymore, to be wanted and desired. For about a month, I merely engaged in chatting and flirting. After another month of continued rejection and sexual frustration, I made the decision to take it to the next level. I arranged to meet a couple of the guys at Starbucks on separate occasions, but there were no sparks, and I found myself being quite selective. Politely, I thanked them but declined any further involvement. I began requesting more pictures and did eventually meet up with a guy who was traveling for business. It was a fun encounter but didn't lead to anything beyond a one-time thing. It did, however, boost my self-esteem and alleviate some of my sexual frustration. At this point, I wasn't actively looking for anything more, but suddenly I received a message from another member that piqued my interest. We chatted on and off for a couple of weeks before deciding to meet up. As soon as I saw him, I knew I wanted him. He seemed perfect and was in a similar situation as me, with his wife having lost interest in sex and offering it as a mere favor when he insisted. We both agreed to keep our relationship strictly sexual. We meet once a week, choosing different hotels or occasionally using his office after hours. The sex we have is nothing short of amazing, the best either of us has ever experienced. We've explored every variation and fantasy we've ever desired. We've been involved in this affair for about a year now, and although we could easily fall in love and run off together, neither of us wants to tear apart our families. I still love my husband, but he can't provide me with what I need. If it weren't for this affair, I might have divorced him by now. My lover fills a void in my life and allows me to continue in my marriage. Surprisingly, I find that I get along better with my husband now that I no longer harbor as much resentment and anger toward him. It's strange to write all this, knowing that some people may judge me harshly, but until you've walked in my shoes, it's difficult to understand. For me, this is the solution that allows me to keep my family together. Something was missing in my life, and it was making me miserable. I found solace in the arms of someone else, filling the void that was absent in my marriage. It's far from perfect, and I often wish that my husband could provide what I need and would, at the very least, seek medical advice. However, he either can't or won't do so. His reluctance to get his testosterone levels checked or even make a simple doctor's appointment illustrates how little he seems to care about my satisfaction or my feelings. I don't carry guilt for my actions. I believe I'm doing what's necessary to keep my family together for the sake of our children. Surprisingly, I find contentment in many aspects of my marriage, especially in how we get along and the life we've built together. I understand that if I were to get a divorce, it wouldn't necessarily lead to greater happiness or a better situation. I envision our marriage as a 100-piece puzzle with 99 pieces perfectly fitting together. I had to seek that missing piece elsewhere or consider abandoning the entire puzzle. I'm not willing to discard the other 99 pieces, so I do what I must. Comment: you described your marriage as otherwise perfect, akin to 99 pieces of a puzzle fitting together. but it's clear there are substantial issues. Your husband's disinterest in engaging with you, even while you cried for an hour, and his indifference to your needs are signs of deeper problems. It appears that more than one piece is missing from this puzzle. While you're trying to maintain the family for your children's sake, it's essential to consider the long-term impact on them. Sometimes it's crucial to communicate with your spouse about what's broken and whether it can be fixed, rather than continuing on a path of unhappiness.